The call came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was looking at some work papers in my office. My office was on the top floor of a tall building in downtown Chicago. From my window, I could see other skyscrapers, traffic moving below, and the sun reflecting off the glass buildings. The view was beautiful, but I wasn't thinking about the view. My phone buzzed. My dad's name appeared on the screen. For a tiny moment, I thought about not picking up the call. I even considered letting it go to voicemail. We hadn't spoken much in years. Our relationship was tense, awkward, and full of little disappointments. But after a moment, I decided to answer. I pressed the green button. "Hello," I said. "Amaris, we need to talk about the wedding," he said. There was no greeting, no hi, just that. His voice was serious, and I could tell this conversation wasn't going to be fun. I put my pen down and looked at him through my mind's eye, even though he wasn't in the room. "What about it?" I asked calmly. "Carol and I have been talking about the guest list," he said. Then he paused. I could hear him thinking, hesitating. That kind of hesitation that comes right before someone says something you know is going to hurt. Her business friends are coming from all over the country. Very important people. CEOs, creative directors, big names. Carol's company is at a very important stage. First impressions matter. She needs the wedding to look perfect, fancy, and successful. I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the skyline, the sun slowly moving toward the horizon. "Just say it," I said. I already knew what he was going to say. "We think it's better if you don't come," he said finally. "Carol wants the wedding to be classy and sophisticated. Her friends are all very successful, and you're still—" He stopped. "Still what?" I asked, my voice calm but sharp. "You know what I mean, Amaris. You're 32, and you rent an apartment. You drive an old Honda. You work some vague government job that you can't really explain. Carol's friends will wonder why you haven't done more with your life." The words landed like poison in my stomach. I had heard versions of these words all my life. My dad had always made me feel like I was not enough, like I was always falling short. After Mom died when I was 19, he married Olivera within 2 years. Olivera had made it clear I was a disappointment. That marriage lasted 5 years before ending in a bitter divorce. Now Dad, at 61, had found Carol. She was 15 years younger than him, ambitious, beautiful, and obsessed with appearances. Apparently, she didn't want me there. "You're not inviting me to your wedding because your fiancé thinks I'll make her look bad?" I said flatly. "Don't be dramatic. We're just trying to keep a certain standard. You have to understand. Carol needs this wedding to be perfect. Her company, Prestige Marketing Group, is growing fast. She's worked really hard. I'm asking you to support her," he said. I thought about the phone calls I had gotten from Dad over the last 3 years. The ones where he casually mentioned Carol's business problems, almost like he was bragging that he could help her find investors. The calls where he asked me if I knew anyone with money who might invest in Carol's company. I thought about how his voice had sounded so happy when I told him I could help. "So you want me to stay away from your wedding?" I asked quietly. "Yes, that's right," he said. I took a deep breath. "The wedding is 3 weeks away, right? The wedding I already bought a dress for? I'll pay for the dress if you want. But this is what you want, isn't it?" "Yes." Carol's friends are flying in from New York, Los Angeles, Miami. These are people who matter in her world. "You have to understand," he said. "I understand perfectly, Dad," I said calmly. "Good. I knew you'd be reasonable. You've always been the understanding one, not like your brother would have been," he said. "My brother. The golden child who died in a car accident at 24. Dad had poured all his disappointed expectations onto me after that. The son who could do no wrong, even in death. "Is that all?" I asked. "Yes, that's all. We'll catch up after the honeymoon. Maybe lunch," he said. "Dad, congratulations on the wedding," I said. I hung up without waiting for him to respond. For a long time, I just sat there staring at my phone. Then I opened my laptop and checked my email. My fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. I typed a message to Marcus, my investment manager, the only person who knew the full scope of my financial portfolio. "Marcus, withdraw all money from Prestige Marketing Group. Dissolve the partnership. Make sure all the funds come back to our holding company within 48 hours. No delays. No negotiations. Amaris." I hit send and closed my laptop. My phone rang 30 seconds later. Marcus called. "Amaris, I just got your email. Are you sure about this? That's $2.7 million in active capital. Prestige Marketing was showing strong growth. Without this money, they'll be in serious trouble. Are you sure you want to do this?" "I know what it will do, Marcus. Execute the withdrawal, I said. There was a pause. Marcus had been managing my investments for 8 years. He knew not to question me. Consider it done. The paperwork will be filed within the hour. They'll receive notification by the end of the day, Marcus said. Thank you, I said. I put my phone down and returned to my reports as if nothing had happened. The story of how I became wealthy enough to casually withdraw $2.7 million is not dramatic. There was no lottery win, no inheritance from a distant relative, no lucky cryptocurrency. It was just a matter of being in the right place at the right time and having the right skills. After Mom died, I threw myself into my studies. I studied computer science and math at MIT, paid for by scholarships and Mom's modest life insurance. Dad was too busy with Olivera to pay attention to my achievements. He didn't even notice when I graduated. When I started working for a government contractor, the work was secret and classified, so I can't say much about it. But I became very good at finding patterns in complicated systems. The government pays extremely well for that kind of skill. By 25, I was making more than most senior executives. By 28, I had saved enough to make strategic investments through holding companies and trusts. By 30, my portfolio was worth $47 million. Now, at 32, I was worth more than $180 million. I still rented my apartment because I liked the building and didn't want the hassle of maintenance. I still drove my old Honda because it was reliable and I didn't want to attract attention. I still worked my government job because it gave me purpose and satisfaction beyond just making money. To my family, I was still Amaris, the disappointment. Amaris, who worked a boring government desk job and probably wouldn't amount to much. I had thought about telling him the truth 1,000 times. But after Olivera, after seeing him choose a new wife's comfort over his own daughter's feelings, I realized some things are better kept private. I wasn't hiding my success out of shame. I was hiding it as a test. Would Dad love me for who I really am, or only for what I had? With Carol, I got my answer. 3 years ago, when Dad started dating Carol, he was practically giddy. Carol was successful, attractive, ambitious, and very image-conscious. He introduced us at dinner. Carol spent most of the evening talking about her clients and her company's growth. We're really at a pivotal moment, she said, swirling her wine. If we could just secure the right investor, someone willing to commit real capital, we could expand into 3 new markets within a year. She looked at me, expecting me to produce a wealthy friend from my purse. That sounds exciting, I said blandly. Dad jumped in. Amaris, you work in government contracting, right? Do you ever meet people with money? The kind who might be interested in investing. I took a sip of water. I might know someone, I said. That someone, of course, was me. Through one of my holding companies, I had structured a $2.7 million investment in Prestige Marketing Group. The terms were favorable to Carol: generous, low interest, flexible repayment, minimal oversight. Dad had been thrilled when I told him I had found an investor. He hugged me for the first time in years. Carol had been grateful, though she never asked many questions about where the money came from. The investment had been profitable. Carol's company had grown substantially over the past 3 years, opened offices in 2 new cities, and doubled its client roster. But business is business and family is family, and sometimes the two cannot coexist. The first domino fell at 4:47 p.m. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad. Amaris, did you tell Carol's investor something? She just got a call and she's losing her mind. I didn't respond. At 5:15 p.m., another text came. This isn't funny. Carol's business is in serious trouble. Do you know anything about this? I muted his conversation thread. At 6:30 p.m., my office phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. Amaris Kalin? A woman's voice said, tight with panic. This is Amaris, I said. I'm Carol Westfield, your father's fiancée. We need to talk now, she said. About what? I asked. Don't play games with me. My CFO just received notice that our primary investor is withdrawing $2.7 million in active capital. Effective immediately. We're scrambling to understand how this happened and who approved this. Your father seems to think you might know something about it. I leaned back in my chair, watching the sun set over the Chicago skyline. Why would I know anything about your business arrangements, Carol? I asked. Because you were the one who found the investor 3 years ago. You connected us. You have to know who they are. I knew someone who was interested in investing. That's all. That's it. Her voice rose sharply. Do you have any idea what you've done? This withdrawal will destroy our expansion. We've already committed to new office leases, hired staff, signed client contracts based on having this capital. Without it, we're in serious trouble. You need to contact this investor. Tell them there's been a mistake. Tell them we'll renegotiate terms if necessary. I don't think they're interested in negotiations, but you have to try. I leaned back, staring at the golden sun sinking behind the buildings. I didn't say a word. You don't understand, Amaris. This is my company. This is my life's work. You need to fix this. I don't need to do anything, Carol, I said calmly, though my heart was racing. A long, heavy silence fell between us. It was the kind of silence that feels thick and uncomfortable. Then Carol spoke again, but her voice was cold and sharp like ice. This is about the wedding, isn't it? You're doing this because we didn't invite you. That's an interesting idea, I said softly. Her face twisted, and she almost called me a mean name, but she stopped herself at the last second. Your father was right about you. He said you never did anything important, and now I see why. You try to tear other people down because you can't build anything yourself, I said, and I couldn't stop a small smile from appearing, even though she didn't see it. Is there anything else, Carol? I asked, trying to stay calm. You're going to regret this. When my lawyer finds out who this investor is, when we trace the money, you're going to wish you never did this. I hung up the phone, but my phone immediately started ringing again. Dad's number. I didn't answer. Carol's number. I didn't answer. Dad again. I let it go to voicemail. Finally, I turned off my phone, packed my briefcase, and went home. That night, the voicemails piled up. By the next morning, there were 17 messages. I sat with a cup of coffee in my apartment, listening to them one by one. Each message was more desperate than the last. Dad's first message was calm but worried. Amaris, please call me back. Carol is beside herself. Whatever is happening with her investor, we need to figure this out. She's talking about postponing the wedding. His third message sounded confused. I don't understand what's going on. Carol's lawyer says the investment came through something called Silver Oak Capital Management. That name doesn't mean anything to me. Amaris, if you know these people, please help us. His seventh message was urgent. Carol showed me the withdrawal notice. It's signed by someone named Marcus Chin. Do you know him? Amaris, please. I'm begging you. This wedding is in 3 weeks. Carol's company is falling apart. I need you to help. His 15th message, sent at 2:47 a.m., was emotional. I know you're angry about the wedding invitation. I understand, but this is bigger than that. Carol has worked her entire life to build her business. You can't let it collapse because of a family fight. That's not who you are. I deleted all the messages and went to work. For the next 2 days, everything was a blur. Dad came to my apartment, but the doorman turned him away because I had told him I wasn't receiving visitors. Carol tried to reach me through my work email, but I blocked her. Even my Aunt Maricela called to lecture me about family loyalty. I don't know what's going on between you and your father, she said. But Carol is being hurt. Her business doesn't deserve to be destroyed because of a family argument. I agree, I said simply. Businesses shouldn't fail because of family problems. And people shouldn't be uninvited from weddings just because someone thinks they're embarrassing. Wait, they didn't invite you to the wedding? She asked, shocked. Ask Dad about it. I hung up. By the 4th day, the story had spread across the family. My phone rang constantly with calls from relatives I hadn't talked to in years. They all wanted to know why I was sabotaging Carol's business. I thought it was ironic. For years, no one had cared about me. Now, suddenly, I mattered. On the 5th day, everything changed. I was in a meeting with my government team when my personal phone buzzed. It was a text from Marcus. Your father and Carol just showed up at Silver Oak offices. Security has them in the lobby. They're demanding to meet the principal investor in Prestige Marketing Group. What do you want me to do? I excused myself from the meeting and called him. How did they find the office? I asked. The withdrawal notice had our corporate address. They hired a private investigator who traced the LLC structure. They're threatening legal action if we don't meet them, Marcus replied. I checked my watch. It was 2:30 p.m. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't engage with them until I arrive. You're coming with me, Marcus. Time to end this. Silver Oak Capital Management was on the 42nd floor of a tall glass tower in Chicago's financial district. The offices were elegant but not flashy. Dark wood, leather chairs, and floor-to-ceiling windows with views of Lake Michigan gave the place a calm, wealthy feeling. You could feel money without it yelling at you. When I stepped off the elevator, I could hear Carol's voice echoing through the marble lobby. This is absurd. You can't just refuse to meet with us. We have a contractual relationship with your firm. We have rights. The security guard stood quietly by the desk. Ma'am, as I explained, no one from our investment team is available without an appointment, he said. Then get us an appointment today. Right now, Carol demanded. Dad stood beside her, looking older and more tired than I had ever seen him. He noticed me before Carol did. Amaris, he blinked, confused. What are you doing here? Carol spun around. Did you follow us? How did you? I work here, I said simply. The lobby went silent. You work here, Dad repeated slowly. At an investment firm? Not exactly, I said. I turned to the security guard. Thank you, Kaylin. I'll take it from here. I walked past them toward the secured door leading to the main offices. I pressed my palm against the biometric scanner, and the lock disengaged with a soft click. Amaris, wait, Dad said. I don't understand. What is this place? Why are you? I held the door open. Would you like to come inside and talk, or would you prefer to keep shouting in the lobby? They followed me down a hallway lined with offices to a corner suite at the end. The nameplate beside the door read, Amaris J. Kaylin, Principal Partner. Carol saw it first. Her face went white. That can't be, she whispered. I unlocked the door and gestured for them to enter. My office was larger than my apartment. One wall was entirely glass, giving an unobstructed view of the Chicago skyline and Lake Michigan. The other walls were lined with framed credentials, my MIT degrees, awards from government agencies, some parts redacted for security reasons, and a Forbes 30 Under 30 feature from 2 years ago, something my father had never seen. On my desk sat a single photograph of my mom, smiling from the year before she died. Dad stood in the doorway, staring. I don't, Amaris. I don't understand, he whispered. Sit down, Dad. You too, Carol, I said. They sank into the chairs across from my desk like sleepwalkers. I remained standing, leaning against the window. 3 years ago, I began. Dad mentioned that Carol needed an investor to help her business grow. I agreed to help through this firm using a structure of LLCs and holding companies. I personally invested $2.7 million in Prestige Marketing Group. Carol's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The terms were generous, very low interest, flexible repayment, and almost no operational control. I wanted the business to succeed. I wanted you to be happy, Dad. You, he whispered, shaking his head. But how? You work for the government. You drive a Honda. You rent an apartment. Where would you get $2.7 million? I've been doing specialized consulting work since I was 23. My particular skills are very valuable to certain agencies. Over the years, I invested wisely. This firm manages my portfolio along with several others. Total assets under management are about $180 million. My personal net worth is about the same. The room was completely silent. Carol spoke first, her voice trembling. You're lying. This is a scam. You're not worth $180 million. That's impossible. I opened a desk drawer and removed a leather portfolio. I laid several documents on the desk. Bank statements from 3 different institutions, investment summaries, property holdings, stock portfolios, and government contracts with payment amounts, redacted for security. Dad reached for the papers with shaking hands. His eyes moved across the numbers, disbelieving. This is real, he whispered. Is this actually real? Yes, Dad. It's real, I said calmly. Then why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to know if you'd love me for who I am, not what I have. I got my answer on Tuesday, when you called to uninvite me from your wedding, I said softly. The words hit him like a physical blow. He flinched. Amaris, that wasn't. I didn't mean it like that, he said. You said Carol wanted to keep things classy. You said her business friends would wonder why her daughter wasn't more accomplished. You said I'd raise questions because of my situation. You were trying to protect Carol's reputation. Her business was everything. Her business that I was funding. Carol's face went red with embarrassment and shock. She tried to speak, but I held up my hand. You should understand, Carol, I said. I didn't do this for attention. I didn't do it to prove something. I did it because I wanted to help, and I wanted you to succeed. And now you know why I didn't say anything before. The room was silent again. Dad's eyes were wide, staring at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Carol's hands were shaking slightly as she looked at the documents on my desk. You've been funding me all this time? She asked quietly. Yes, I said simply. Every time you thought the investment came from an anonymous company, it came from me. I wanted to help your business, not make a scene. I wanted it to grow without distraction. And now you know the truth. Dad rubbed his forehead and took a deep breath. Amaris, I had no idea. I never knew you had all this money. I thought I was helping you understand the world, but I didn't even know your life. I never wanted anyone to treat me differently, I said. I wanted you to love me, Dad, for me, not for what I had. But when you called to uninvite me from the wedding, I realized love isn't always about money, but respect should be. I wasn't respected. I wasn't considered. And that hurt. Carol swallowed hard. Amaris, I'm sorry. I didn't know. It's not just about the wedding, Carol. It's about understanding each other. It's about not underestimating people just because you don't see everything they do. You've worked hard, but I've been working hard too, just in a way you never noticed. Dad looked down at his hands, shaking slightly. I see that now. I see it now, Amaris. I was wrong. I didn't understand. I hope you do, I said. My voice stayed calm, but every word I said was very clear, like a knife cutting through. I wanted Dad to understand, to really understand, that the business he had invested in wouldn't exist the way it does now without my money. The new offices in Atlanta and Denver? That was my money. The building repairs and renovations? My money. The big advertising campaign that got 3 huge companies as clients? My money again. I had put so much into this business, and now everything was on the line. Carol, who had been sitting across from me, went from looking white to gray. Her hands were shaking slightly, and I could see she was worried. You can't take back that money, she said, her voice sharp and desperate. We have a contract, Dad said, his voice shaky but trying to sound strong. We have rights. You can't just. I picked up a paper from my desk, one of the many contracts I had read 100 times before. Actually, Dad, I said quietly but firmly, Section 14.3 of our investment agreement says I can stop giving money right away if certain things happen. Like if there's a big change in our relationship, or if I decide this investment doesn't fit my plans anymore. That's just a technicality, Carol said angrily, her face red. No court would agree with you, I said. Every court would say this is legal. My lawyers wrote the contract. Your lawyers signed it. You were so excited to get my money that you barely read the terms. Dad stood up quickly, looking panicked. Amaris, please. Let's talk calmly. About the wedding. You can still come. Of course you can come. I don't want to come, Dad, I said, my voice quiet but firm. Then what do you want? He asked, almost pleading. Money, I said simply. Dad looked hurt. We can pay it back slowly. We can change the payment plan. We can figure it out. I don't want your money, I said. I walked to the window and looked out at the city. The sun was reflecting off the buildings, and people were walking quickly on the sidewalks below, going about their lives. I wanted a dad who cared about me. I wanted to be invited to his wedding because he loved me, not because I was secretly rich. I wanted to matter. You do matter, Dad said, his voice cracking with emotion. Did I? I asked. When did you last call just to see how I was? When did you last ask about my life, my work, or my happiness? You only called when you needed something. When Carol needed an investor. When you wanted advice about Olivera's divorce. Or when you need someone to listen to your problems. That's not fair. I've been dealing with a lot, Dad said. The divorce, rebuilding my life, finding Carol, and I've been trying to fix everything. I said, do you know what it feels like to do something amazing and have no one to share it with? To make your first million and know that telling your own dad would only make him see you differently. Not better, just different. You should have told me, Dad said quietly. I'm your father. I deserve to know. Did you? I asked. Would it have changed anything? Would you suddenly care about my life? Or just ask for money? No one answered. The room was quiet except for the soft ticking of the clock. Carol looked like she might cry. Her hands were gripping her bag tightly. Carol stood up, her composure finally breaking. This is crazy, she said. You're punishing an entire business because your feelings are hurt. People who have jobs because of this will lose them. That's not punishment, I said calmly. It's just smart business. Every business has rules, and this is mine. I'm not angry. I'm making decisions like a business owner. You're ruining me. Without this money, I'll have to fire 30 people. Cancel contracts. My reputation will be gone. Carol said, her voice shaking. Your reputation was more important than my feelings when you decided I wasn't good enough for your wedding, I said. I'm just using the same logic. Amaris, please, Dad said, stepping toward me slowly. I know I've been a terrible father. I know I let you down in so many ways. But don't hurt Carol. She doesn't deserve this. Did I deserve to be uninvited from your wedding? I asked softly but clearly. No, Dad said, tears streaming down his face. You deserved better. You've always deserved better, and I failed you. After your mom died, I fell apart. I was so sad that I forgot you were sad too. Then Olivera and all her drama. I just let you slip away. I let years pass without really seeing you. And now you see me because I have money. But I see you, an incredible woman who did everything on her own. You did this yourself, Amaris. And instead of being proud, I broke down completely. I stood very still, watching him cry. I didn't forgive him yet, but something inside me felt softer than the cold anger I had been carrying for so long. The money is withdrawn, I said quietly. But Carol, I'll give you 30 days to find other funding. Marcus will make a short-term loan to help cover your immediate needs. After 30 days, you're on your own. Carol's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. I'm not doing this for you, but for the employees who don't deserve this. I turned to Dad. As for the wedding, I won't come. I understand, he said, wiping his eyes. I know I can't fix everything in one talk, but I want to try. I want to be a real father if you'll let me. That will take a lot of time, Dad, I said. I know, he said. I'll wait as long as it takes. 20 minutes later, Dad and Carol left my office. Carol had a promissory note for a bridge loan and 3 possible new investors. Her business would survive, though it would take years to reach the same level of success again. The wedding was postponed. Dad called it off 2 weeks later. It didn't feel right, he said. Getting married while my relationship with my daughter is broken. It didn't feel right. Carol understood. They were still engaged but waiting, taking time to figure things out. Aunt Maricela called to apologize. Some other family members called, curious about my success. I ignored most of them. 3 months later, Dad started showing up at my building every Sunday morning with coffee and bagels. He never came up to my apartment. He just waited in the lobby. The first 2 Sundays, I took the coffee and went back upstairs. The 3rd Sunday, I walked with him for 10 minutes. On the 4th Sunday, we walked for half an hour and talked about Mom. Really talked for the first time since she died. By the 6th Sunday, it became a routine. It's been 8 months now. Every Sunday we have coffee. We talk about work, Mom, Tavian, and all the years we lost. We talk about Carol, who broke off the engagement because Dad's priorities changed. She said, I was choosing you over her. Dad told me, and she was right. I should have chosen you 13 years ago. We're not fully fixed. 13 years of hurt can't be healed in 8 months, but we are trying. That's something. Last week, Dad asked if I'd have dinner with him on Mom's birthday. We went to her favorite restaurant. We ordered her favorite food, told stories, laughed, and cried. Outside the restaurant, Dad hugged me tight. A real hug, long and strong, like he hadn't given me since I was a child. I'm proud of you, Amaris, he whispered. Your mom would be proud too. I'm sorry it took me so long to say that. I know, Dad. I know. I still live in my apartment. I still drive my Honda. I still work my job. But now, when Dad calls, it's not because he needs something. It's just to talk. To ask about my day. To tell me about his. Last month, he asked if I'd meet someone he had started seeing. Her name is Avellini, a retired teacher. Kind funny, not rich, not trying to climb any social ladder. I met Avellini last week. She asked about my work, listened when I answered, and didn't once treat me like a disappointment or an ATM. Dad laughed. A real laugh. The kind I hadn't heard since before Mom died. I'm still learning to trust him again. Some wounds take years to heal, and some scars never fully go away. But every Sunday morning, when I see him in the lobby with coffee and that hopeful, kind expression on his face, I remember, people can change. Sometimes they just need the right reason, the right motivation to really start trying.